My name's Rob Ferguson. You guys might be familiar with me. I've been on quite a few of the summer showcases and webinars over the past couple months. I currently serve as the marketing manager for North America, focusing on both our commercial and professional audio systems. So that's Electro-Voice and Dynacord. In my background prior, certainly I studied audio, but I also studied music performance. That was my passion, certainly, as a musician, as many of us are in the audio industry. That's kind of how I transitioned over into audio. Talked with Christian a little bit here already. He will take us actually through SONICUE a little bit more, but Christian does have quite a lot of experience and has been in the industry for well over 16 years, and has spent time not only with Bosch and Dynacord and Electro-Voice, but has also spent time with some other manufacturers. So he's currently our Senior Global Product Manager for Dynacord Electronics and Software. Christian is not only a physicist, but also is a musician as well and live sound engineer. So welcome, Christian. So as I kind of mentioned today, we'll briefly just kind of go over the Dynacord electronics, but we'll spend the bulk of the time walking through SONICUE and actually doing walking through SONICUE live. I think that's the best way to really showcase how the software really works, and Christian will be doing that for us. But before we get into the SONICUE live demo, let's talk a little bit about Dynacord. For those of us in North America, you may or may not be familiar with the brand. The brand was here in North America a little over a decade ago, and it was a separate brand for both electronics and loudspeakers, but was a part of the overall Bosch family of brands. And then, for a period of time, we didn't have Dynacord products. We only sold Electro-Voice products, right? So that's Electro-Voice loudspeakers and Electro-Voice branded amplifiers. So we kind of changed our strategy here at Bosch, and going forward, all of our professional audio electronics will actually be Dynacord branded. So there are some, EV amplifiers that are still out in the market, like the CPS amps or the TG series amplifiers, which are still, we still see quite a few of those out there. But as of lately, as the past couple of years, we've made some pretty impressive investments into Dynacord and the amplifier and electronics portfolio. And you might be familiar with some of these products already, but I did think it was worth mentioning this real quick before we dive into SONICUE. Certainly, these are all of the hardware components that you're going to add into SONICUE, into the software itself. So up here at the top on the screen, you can kind of see the overall portfolio of what exists today. But up here at the top, we have our C and L series 2-channel amplifiers for both install and live applications. C is more for install, L is more for live. I think C is contractor. But they're great 2-channel amplifiers that have some professional DSP preloaded into them, including FIR drive. And although you can use it in the Mark software, which has existed for quite a while, you now have the ability to update the firmware on C&L series and actually operate it and have it coexist in the SONICUE ecosystem, which we'll see shortly here. But of course, that's a new added benefit and feature there. Not only do we have some little bit more parameters to work with here, but certainly we can mix and match the other components in a system that you might have. So that's the C&L series amplifiers. They've kind of replaced the CPS and the Q series amplifiers, if you're familiar with the EV portfolio. But IPX is kind of our flagship multi-channel installation amplifier. They're Dante and OCA networked, so that's current Dante standard as well as AES-70 control. They're incredibly energy efficient. They offer some advanced reliability, and of course, they operate at full 96K. Some of the best amplifiers in the market, and certainly we've gained a lot of traction here. TGX is kind of our live amplifier, pretty similar to IPX under the hood, but they're 4-channel amplifiers, more focused on mobile applications, so certainly more dedicated for the live sound or production guy. But if you do have more of a mobile or multi-purpose space, maybe it's a ballroom of that kind, something like that, we do offer a turnkey system rack with TGX that actually includes power distro as well as switches. So if you do need that in your installation, you need something a little more mobile, you can certainly look at the TGX range. And then we are introducing a new DSP matrix mix engine, the MXE series, MXE5, which Christian will touch on a little bit on SONICUE, but there is a separate MXE5 session within the summer showcase. So there is some information online, certainly, but we do have a dedicated hour for both tomorrow and Thursday. So whatever time works best for you. So feel free to take a look at that if you are interested in MXE. And it does offer Dante and OCA as well. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then, of course, we'll talk about SONICUE here. So like I mentioned, MXE5 is the first of the MXE series. So we're offering a new era of performance audio matrices. So please keep your eyes out for that. And certainly, we do have a new version of SONICUE that comes out with that once we launch the product there. But it is available for you to talk about today. And I'll hand it off here to Christian in just a moment to talk a little bit more about SONICUE and how that operates. But SONICUE really is a guided workflow that really offers the maximum flexibility to achieve some great results with minimum efforts. And certainly, it offers integrated system visibility, direct access on the fly, and error prevention with automated configuration checks. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring Christian back up here, and then I'll have him give us kind of a live demo. I think he's got a couple examples for us, and we'll kind of walk right through SONICUE live here so you can see really how the software works.
Okay, so Rob, can you see my screen? Because I can see it.
Yes, I can see it as well, so I'm sure everyone else can.
Okay. That's good. But before I really start, I mean, there's one thing. I mean, you guys might think, it's already night in Germany, and the guy, he's sitting in his bed, before he goes to sleep. So this is not my pajamas here, okay? Can you see this? This is an original Dynacord shirt. Yeah. So let's just let you know. Okay. So let's jump right into SONICUE. So I always think the best way to explain a software is basically to show what it can do for you in your daily business. Okay, so what we have here, I just use one example, I would say that's a system that could be used for, let's say, small, medium-sized house of worship. So we do have, go to the mode and look in what nice things we have here. So it's a small hang of X1s, 3 90 degrees and 2 120s on the bottom. 2 double 15 EVF subs in the middle. For front fields, there are some EVCs. And then we do have, so that's the sanctuary. And then we have a small side room where we have a bunch of EVITs S5.2 and with the S10 sub. If you haven't heard it, really nice setup. And here we have a line of EVIT ceiling speakers on a 70-volt line for whatever, concourses, outdoors, wherever they want to have some music. So for amplifiers in our system, we have, and I can switch to label, we have one IPX 10.8, because that's my favorite out of the IPX series, because this is really one piece with its 8 powerful channel that can drive basically a whole system on its own. And then we have 2 C-series, 2 C1800 FDI to drive the EVITs and the 70-volt line. Okay, so that's the basic system that I already prepared a little bit, not to save some time. So let's jump right into SONICUE. So what we have as a guided workflow, basically there are 3 top menu items. We've got setup, tune, and operate. And operate right now is a little bit boring, because if I would have all my hardware with me right now and would be playing music, you would see lovely VU meters here jumping up and down, but right now not. Tune and you see whenever I'm changing that the main head, there's also some different functions down here: preset, mute, level, delay, EQ. So pretty much very self-explanatory. And the most important thing is the guided workflow means that there is no fixed order that you have to do anything in a specifically order. Of course, if you don't have any devices, okay, then it doesn't make sense. But as soon as you have them, it can be your own pace, your own way of working. And if you forgot something, you can always go back and change. So one thing that I always use as an example, key thing on SONICUE is, of course, that we use the speakers, the view of the speaker, to actually operate the entire sound system. Why? On amplifier number 1, channel number 3 is not as meaningful as if you talk about, hey, let's make the front fill a little bit less loud. So, and very good example is to say, okay, what we have with working, that's probably not the only one doing this, but we also have this combined with our flyout system. So whatever you see here, preset, mute, level, whatever you pick, I have level here, and I select a speaker, I get what we call a flyout for this function. So without doing anything, I already see from the entire system, everything is on 0. And if I pick that speaker, and I can, if I want, I can grab this level control. And as soon as I grab it, you see that little pin button turns into an X. So now it kind of stays. I can adjust my workspace, do something else, add other things as well. Yeah. And now I can adjust the level. And what you see is as soon as I change the levels, and in this case, I'm doing this in parallel. Why? Yeah, they are connected to the same amp channel. So of course, if I'm changing one, I'm also changing the other. But now I have a selection uneven values here. And one very powerful feature in SONICUE is that this flyout concept is not only working for single items or items that are physically connected. You can grab now, let's say, all the entire front fill. And now I have a relative fader here. So it doesn't show me a fader button because it could be anywhere. What I'm seeing is the lowest value is -7.5, the highest is 0. And now there's two ways. I can either change and keep the relative level. So one arrow is just behind the decimal, 2 arrows is in front of the decimal. So you can use this to adjust up and down. Or if I want to say, no, that's all wrong, I want to have this back to 0, just type in 0, enter, and it goes to 0. The very powerful thing is, and you notice this, as soon as I mouse over that control, I see these are the speakers I'm doing. These are the speakers I'm working. So there is no need in SONICUE that you say, oh, I have to create these groups. What groups do I need? You put these groups together, then you say, oh, shoot, I forgot this one to put into this group, and so on. So that's all not needed. You just grab what you want and you do what it is. And if you're not really sure, is this now all the speakers? As soon as you mouse over, you will see, okay, it's them. So you have a direct visual control, and you always know what you're doing. This was one of my major requirements on this on the software that I'm saying, when you work with a remote control software, the number one thing is that you have to be chef in the kitchen. It can't be that you see one thing on your screen, or you think it is, and the system is doing something else. That is causing so much trouble, and I've been through these things. No. So that's the most important thing. It sounds like a very trivial thing, but that's not always the case. And I see a lot of people doing things that they are not fully aware of. So that was the level control. And the beauty is, if you know how to operate level, you basically know how to operate all the other things. So when you go on delay or parametric EQ, so right now delay, you see nothing. We have 2 DSP blocks for all of these things. There is a user and an array block. Array block is also something that could for settings inside an array. So SONICUE is prepared to work hand in hand with the upcoming preview prediction software. And it will be possible to import things straight from the prediction software into the SONICUE. And if you're using array parameters like level shading or whatsoever, they will be taken over. And you have them as a starting point already here in the design. So there is delay, and if you want to do, for example, you want to delay your front fills, you just select them and either entering or typing. And as you do it, you see what you're doing. Below here, we see the amp connected to it. So of course, technically, I'm doing this to the amp channel, but as I said, it's much nicer working on the speaker system. And so if you know how to do level, everything else works the same way. Parametric EQ, it's the same stuff. I mean, you select what you want, and here is the window. Every window that you open that has a little blue square on the bottom, you can actually scale. So if you need the EQ because it's bigger, a little bit bigger, and you want to do certain things, so here's all types of filters that can be used. And you can keep these, and if you're not sure if this is what you want, you can save that setting just as a little thing and do another setting, keep this also. And now if you walk during the setup in the system back and forth and say, yeah, how are the front fills doing with the main system, you can just toggle, So 4 of these slots to do quick comparison and so on. So you see, pretty straightforward. There's really nothing there you need to read a manual whatsoever, because I mean, these terms up here are very straightforward. Now you might say, yeah, this working from the speaker is nice, but yeah, I can do this almost in these 2 amp channels, because yes, I agree. In that small system with just, what do we have, 12 amp channels? Yeah, okay, that might be doable. But let's assume we have something slightly larger. And here, this is now a beautiful system, and I'm just showing you these speakers. So this is a bunch of what do we have here? EVHs, yeah, in 3 rows. So this is a medium size, good, or yeah. In Germany, we would say almost a large size. In the US, probably a medium size sports venue. And so we have our 4 blocks. We on the main stands, we have the infills. We have a bunch of speakers, EVITs for concourses, for suites, for whatsoever. And in a system like that, to show you, this is the amping. Again, my preferred IPX 10.8. And this is really the amazing thing with an 8-channel amplifier. You only need 12 to do a massive stadium like that. This is always the shocking part, you know, when it comes to the bomb. It's like, oops. And Rob tells me, hey, Christian, we saw this big stadium and lots of speakers. And yeah, we sold 12 amps as well. So,
hey, Christian?
Yeah?
Hey, Christian, we can't see your screen. It's gray for some reason. I don't know if we're showing something else or not, but apparently some of the participants can't see it.
Showing.
It's just
okay.
Little technical difficulties here.
Yeah, we tried this before, but okay, you can't see the screen. Okay, what can I do? Share my screen. Let's see if that works better.
Right. There we go. Thanks, Christian.
Magic button. Okay, found it. Okay, so you had it already on the audio track, so now you get the picture for it. So as I mentioned before, so the way of working in SONICUE, you can say yes on a small speaker system. Yeah, it's easy. But basically, if you work on a larger system like this, and we have here a stadium, then it's a different animal, okay? And just for an example, let's say you're using this during the commissioning, during the setup of the system, and everything is prepared to run on Dante. But let's just assume you want to do something, because the network's not up and running, you want to start tuning the system, and you select for this block of speakers, and you really don't care what amp channels these are. You say, yeah, let me feed analog 2 that's wired for the spare system, and I have this cable, and I can feed some audio to start doing my testing. Okay, and you just change it. When you're done, you just go back and say, okay, they all should go back. I take the analog out. I switch this to Dante. Oh, and while I'm already there, let me do a failover thing. And yeah, that's to analog 1. That's what I want for the failover. Just imagine if I say failover, using the Dante network on the IPX amplifiers, you already have a primary and secondary. So the failover is actually the third or the second backup if you want. So it's the third alternative to play. Failover, by the way, on these amplifiers, you have a configuration. So shall it fall back if the first one is there, and if you need pilot tones for supervision or whatsoever, you even have a trim to adjust the levels. So if you do this perfectly, you wouldn't even notice if it's happening. And yeah, but you see pretty much that just selecting a block of speakers and say, okay, this is the input source that I want, yeah. And if you go back and say, okay, I would have to do this now somehow on these amp channels, you see, this is quite some work. Okay, so back to our smaller, more convenience system here. So that's most things. I'm not going through all these things here. This was just the basic idea, how to work with SONICUE. You click on a parameter that you want. You have the instant overview. And okay, here are my EVITs. I can adjust the entire system for the room. Everything perfect. Now, Rob mentioned it in the beginning. We have, let me go back to setup. basically since, I think last week was the first time we disclosed it officially, our wonderful MXE5. And on the MXE5, let me open it a little bit. MXE5 is a 24-channel DSP, I would say designed to be free configurable. At launch, we work with because we don't have the entire library together. So at launch, we start with a predefined 24-channel zone mixer. Okay, so let me show the zone mixer. As soon as you open the MXE5, you get what we call a second workspace. So here I have my main workspace with my system, with my speakers and my amps. And this second workspace, sub-workspace, if you like, is only for my MXE. It's the same way of operating. So with the scroll wheel, I can zoom in out. I could also use the buttons here, but the scroll wheel is faster. And I can move to just see the areas of interest that I'm working on. I'm not going to touch on all the individuals because otherwise we will not finish on time, but it's a pretty well equipped with input and output processing matrix. And let me jump on the input patch. So I have, in our example, let's say we have two microphones, there is a console, or maybe spare analog console if there's something there. I can use two more inputs here. So then we might have, let's say, maybe there's something we do on Dante. So let's say, yeah, the main console runs on Dante. So I want to have it here on these inputs and that I know what it is. Call this mixer left, mixer right. So these are my input patches, and this I want as a stereo output. Then I have a subwoofer, which I want as mono, and finally I have the fills, and those I also want as a mono source. Okay. So that's my first zone. That's my sanctuary. Now I might create a second zone. Let's say this is my side room, yeah. And in the side room, I'm using this mix. That console now will not be used in the side room. The signal of the mixer. That's it for this zone. And what do we have? We have our EBITs, and I want to run them in stereo. And I have the sub, and the sub I want to run in mono. Okay. So far, so good. Now, last but not least, we're almost done. Of course, I need to take a look at the output patching. So my main hangs I want to use on Dante. So if you don't know, this is my preferred button, clear all, start from scratch. So my main hangs, I want to have them on Dante 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now let me see what else do we have. On the analog side, we have the EVITs, and the EVITs I want to have left and right at output 1 and 2, and the subwoofer output 3. Now let's say you would have an assistive listening or whatsoever that you want to feed with the same signal of the zone. All you have to do is decide for an output from your zone mixer from that same zone where you say, yeah, the sanctuary, I just need another one. Just and patch it, and you have it. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty visible. Now, that was the patching of these zones, and very convenient without doing anything else but saying these are the inputs, these are the outputs. You have the complete zone mixer. So on the left hand, you have your input levels and mutes, and on the right hand, you have each individual output. So my main hangs appear as a left and a right. And of course, in 99%, you would say, okay, they should be the same level. But just in case, every output is still individually adjustable. And if it's just during the setup or whatsoever, you know, you might just want to mute the left side to see if it's really the right side playing, or are we mixing up the wiring or whatsoever. And this master here really serves as, you don't see these other faders moving, because in this case, it is really a digital additional master that adds an offset to all the other levels that you set. So you can really use this typically when you bring a zone control on a custom control panel or whatsoever. That would be the volume control for the zone overall, where the user would just adjust the level in that zone. Okay, so that was the part of SONICUE and the MXE, and Rob, so I think
well, Christian, got a question for you, I guess. With the launch of MXE5, we also launched a new hardware device, the touch panel controller, the TPC1.
Oh.
How do we configure that in SONICUE? Is it in SONICUE? Is that already available today, or?
That's a good one. How could I forget about it? I mean, this is one of the main features. Maybe it is getting late here, so maybe that's the thing. Thank you for catching that one. Yeah. So how do we do this? Okay. So we do have, and you see here on the wonderful left side, you see for those of you who are using SONICUE already, you will see, the catalog changed a little bit. So if I go to my catalog, I have my amplifiers where I can bring in. We're also supporting, by the way, the old TG amps or H5000, with the RCM module. Here you find IPX, LNC series. So it's all there. And here we have our speakers from Dynacord, from Electro-Voice, generic settings. But last but not least, here is something. Here's Matrix. That's where you bring in the MXE5 and later on all the other nice goodies. And then we have panel. So what are these panels? Let me show you. The panels, this could be, and this is an important step forward in SONICUE. The SONICUE that are currently open, I'm working with, this is what you can call, that's the SONICUE, basically design and operate the Grandmaster software. That's the software for the system engineer, for the guy who's setting up the system. But this is not the app for the end user that might use that system in the daily business. For those guys, you might want to have a dedicated user control with just the buttons that they should adjust, and not more and not less. So, and this could be a desktop, or this could also be, and Rob, thank you for catching it, this could also be our wall panel controller. So when I bring in this wall panel controller, I just see a control panel here, and it's nothing spectacular. So when I click on it in design, I have the option to open a designer, and voila, I'm opening another workspace. So what you see in this workspace, and workspace means I can zoom in and out and I can move around. So you see something that we've already this is basically like a template that we prepared, because all of these things, all of these designs that you create here, whether they run on a touch panel or they run on a desktop, you can import and export, and reuse. So we have nothing done actually than prepared one. And this panel by default is attached to my matrix number 1, which is the one MXE I have in my system. And here is my flyout of my zone mixer that I showed before. And if I'm adjusting that level here, actually that panel is already connected, and you see that the master control of that panel that's currently called lobby is the same thing. If I press the mute button, voila, that's the mute button. So that is this panel. However, if you want to change things where you say, okay, the range of the level, this is much too much, you can grab each and every individual piece here and change the properties. So this is a knob that has a position and a size. I can move it. I can make it bigger or smaller. If you go to advanced, you can change colors, rotations, and you can also set the values, which I think is one of the most important things for level controls. Okay, we all know the phone calls of the system isn't working, and there was just somebody that turned it to -infinity, and that was all. So these are, you can see here, the level controls. So this is the level controller. So when I click on it in design, I have the option to open a designer, and voila, I'm opening another workspace. So what you see in this workspace, and workspace means I can zoom in and out and I can move around. So you see something that we've already you can say on one side, simple but very important things to do. And depending on each and every button that you press, you can select what you're doing. So that's this template, but you can also add stuff. If you say, hey, this is a good template, this is all good, but I need a button more, just bring a button in and start modifying it. Another way of creating a panel, let's say we do a desktop panel, yeah? Same story, I open it in Designer. So now I have my desktop panel and it starts out, it's an empty panel. I can here change the size. And if I say, yeah, you can see, I can still make it to be the control for something else. So if you're designing, let's say, something for a panel that should run on a computer, and you need more or less the same in a variant for a touch panel, not a problem. You know, you can basically copy, paste, and modify it accordingly. So you can recycle your own work as much as possible. So let's say we want to create a desktop in this size, again, and now I can start building these things from scratch. I can import, you know, I can bring in an image. Yeah, this could be the footprint. So everything goes drag and drop. So this is now an image, and here I can say load. Yeah, and load means I can go to my whatever, bring in a picture, adjust the size, and I can say, what do I want? I want to have it as a tile and so on. Of course, this doesn't make sense, but this could be the footprint of the venue or whatsoever that you use as a background, and you place some of the knobs or faders or VU meters on top of it. Another way you don't need it, okay, delete works as well. Something that I really like what the guys have put together is the way, let's say I want to do here what I can do in this zone mixer, but I want it slightly different. So I just grabbed my microphone channel here and said, okay, I want to give these guys, he should be able to control this, and the mixer. The others, for some reason, I don't want that. Okay. Of course, you can zoom in and make this larger if you want. I mean, you see when you zoom in really big, you see that mini grid that comes up. And very nice thing as well. Like, yeah, but this is, you know, it's a little bit small. I want it bigger. You can adjust and resize and all scales automatically. This is something that I've wanted from the very, very first beginning, 15 years back in IrisNet, and I was told, oh, that will not work. So you see, sometimes you just have to be patient and wait a little bit longer. Here you can pretty much do everything. And if I want to change something here, like saying, okay, I want these faders to behave differently, yeah. So I've started by dragging them just in from the flyout, basically. So just to show you, if I go to preview, this is what the panel will look like, yeah. And just to check, yes, it's really working. This is doing what it's supposed to do. I mean, the flyout will stay only as long as it's open, but this is supposed to be then available for the end user to do these controls, and that's fun. Okay, so that was a quick overview of what's happening on custom user control. So actually, once your user, let's say in our sanctuary here, that might be using a computer, let's say front of house guy, when he's there on the weekend, you know, he can do a few settings whatsoever. He would only have access to the parameters that he finds on this desktop panel, on his control panel. And there might even be a small touch panel, you know, on stage where, yeah, if the guys want to do something during the week, that they have some basic turn on and off, make things more or less loud without touching the console or whatsoever. So that's the typical use case for this. One of the things that I should not forget to mention is the MEC5, besides being an audio matrix, is also working as OCA controller. So all the commands, everything we have on the network, this is all OCA or AES-70 protocol. And one of the, yeah, I mean, it's not really a disadvantage. I think it comes with TCP/IP that devices cannot automatically talk to each other. You always need like a communication hub or communication manager in the middle that's kind of receiving messages and sending them to the, you know, to the right address, basically. I mean, and that is a functionality that the MXE5 can do. Now, when you open an MXE5 in settings, there is this DSP, and everything I was doing so far on the zone mixer patching and everything happened in this DSP. There is a second tab on the MXE setting, and this is called OCA controller. And that, when you open this, it's a separate, again, workspace. Many workspaces. And this has all the system logics. So the MXE5 has 8 GPIOs. IPX have 5 GPIOs. And one thing to mention, I'm using in my system C-series amplifiers, okay? C-series amplifiers run the same FIR settings as the big guys, so to say. I mean, okay, they can't do 96K, but speaker settings we have for FIR are compatible also to L and C series. And for the EVS, we have very nice ones. So, but what they still do not have, L and C series are not OCA amplifiers. Okay, so they're not talking a network protocol or whatsoever. But, and let's just go back. I mean, if I'm not spreading my amps all over a campus and have miles of glass fiber in between, I can still use a piece of copper to connect the C1800 to the GPIO of my IPX, or even if I would put the MXE on top to do certain functions. So going back to my OCA controller, let's say what I want to do is as an example, we want to use a simple contact closure to change a preset, but not only on the IPX, also on the C series. And it should be just one. So what we're doing here is we can say, okay, we have that logic task, and the first thing that you do is let's label that job, okay? Okay, so we have for the logic, there is an input device, and the input device I want to use. So here I see the devices in my system right now. I have one AMP1, that's the label of my IPX. If I give it a better name, I see the better name. And matrix 1, that's my MXE. So that's my logic input device. And the function I want to use is I want to use on the MXE my digital input. Here I could select the pins, so I'm using pin 1, that's fine. And I want to do something. And the first thing is I want to change the user preset on my amp number 1. So here is amp number 1. And what do I want to do? So logic output, I want to have change a preset. So it should be a TGX IPX prod. And here I select this. Now I want to do something else, and I want to also use, when I close the contact on my MXE, I'm changing that setting on the IPX, but I also want to use, let's say, the IPX amp to switch my C series. So I'm using logic output. And I don't need to double anything. I just put it in here. And we don't have the time to go through all of that, but what you will see is that you can have jobs very, very easily. And these are now all OCA commands. And this is really the advantage. So my MXE could be somewhere else in a control room, front of house, far away from my amp rack, okay, where I'm actually using that contact. I'm using all my network cabling to do this on my IPX. And if the C series just happens to be in the same rack, surprise, you know, I can compensate for the fact that it's not a full-blown OCA amplifier, but still switch it. Because now what happens is I just use that contact to the preset, to the C series. L series doesn't have the GPIs. To the GPI of the C series to change the preset, and this will happen. And a very cool thing here is that, let's say I want to do the same thing now for a second preset. All I have to do is I just say duplicate, take it twice, and said, okay, and the job here is now that I want to recall preset number 2. So that stays the same. Contact is on pin 2, happens is pin 2, and on the output is also pin 2. Boom. And that's it. So you get a little bit the idea how powerful it looks like. First time I saw it, it was a little bit like, is this a children's puzzle or whatsoever? But after a few minutes working through real use cases, you find out that this is a really, really powerful tool that can do a lot of things inside the system in actually quite short amount of time. So if I build these things, press the deploy button, all the logic is written to the amplifiers and to the devices, and it will actually work. Isn't it marvelous? Okay, so I could go on for probably the rest of the evening, but I think, Rob, it's now time to start a Q&A and do the rest of the program following folks.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks, Christian. Actually, that task engine looks super cool and real easy to use, so I'm glad that you took the time to show that. So,
yep.
All right.
So, I hope there are some questions. Otherwise,
yeah, we got some questions. If you want to pass the ball back over to me,
yes.
I got a couple ones here right after you do that.
Yes. So, assign, and here you go. You should have it in.
Perfect. Cool. So we've got some good questions here. Let me take a look here. The first one that we got here, it's a good one. Will just the new Dynacord amplifiers work in SONICUE, or will the older EV amplifiers be backwards compatible?
You want? I want?
I'll have you go ahead and take it.
Okay, so I take it. So I mentioned this very, very quickly when I was showing the catalog. So there is one condition we need for the old amplifier. The old amplifier needs some kind of way to be able to talk to SONICUE. And typically, C-Series is a little exception, but typically that comes along with Omnio, with OCA. So if you have, let's say, TG5, TG7s, with an RCM28 module, RCM28 was the Omnio module with Dante and OCA. Yes, they do work in SONICUE. They are fully supported, and it's not different than what you can do on the IPX amps, unless we're talking about a function that doesn't exist. Yeah. So there are some switches on the old TGs that are manual physical switches. Of course, they don't show up in software. But everything that could be controlled on the old amps through IrisNet, you can also control through SONICUE. That works. Now, amplifiers prior to that, like stuff on CAN bus and whatever, of course, it's just a different role. That won't work. But TGs are covered. Perfect. And I know that we still have RCM28s.
That was going to be my next point. So yeah, if you do have some TG amplifiers and you're interested in bringing them into SONICUE, we do have some RCM28s. So yeah, feel free to reach out to us about grabbing a couple RCM28s. A couple other questions here, Christian. When will this new version of SONICUE be made available for download?
Okay. So right now, and we are in a very hot final phase, if everything goes according to our plan, which we have daily meetings. Okay, so this morning they said thumbs up. We're talking mid-July that we put it on the website.
Perfect. Yeah, it looks like a couple of people are excited to get their hands on it. And got another question here. Looks like someone who's familiar with the C-Series amplifiers. I currently use Mark. How do I get my C-Series amplifier to work in SONICUE?
Very simple. The first thing is you download the current version, which is 1.1 from the website. In that download file, zip file, you unzip, you'll find everything. Very nice instruction. I wrote it myself. And the firmware. And what happens is, what you need to do, of course, is you need to update the firmware of your amplifier, because the C-series that you have right now that talks to Mark is, by the way, also a different amplifier. What we've done, and basically, I think we talk about more an upgrade than an update. What we've also done, because we touched the firmware and we said, you know what? We use a lot of this DSP, but there's a little bit more headroom. So we decided to squeeze out a little bit more EQs. Yeah, so we have now 10 bands in the input. So basically the same as an RCM28. Okay, so the LNC series had the output processing to match RCM28, and now we've also, with this firmware upgrade, matched the input processing. So if you work a C series, L series in parallel with the TG7, you don't even notice, yeah, because it's the same EQ, it's the same filters, that works. So it's all for free. That's the good thing. It doesn't cost anything.
Perfect. One other question I got here, and this one's a little tough one to answer, yes or no, but is SONICUE the replacement for IRIS-NET?
Yes. I think this is easy. Now, what we have to understand is, I mean, IRIS-NET was something, and I always forget when I started doing the first demos, but it was in the early 2000s, okay? So it's, let's say, 15 plus years out there. And with SONICUE, we had the opportunity to start a whole new chapter, a white piece of paper saying, guys, what is it what we want? What are the things that we would have liked to have earlier, but we somehow forgot, or the technology didn't allow, or whatsoever. So let's make a wish come true. That's the good thing. The downside is that you cannot have everything that you did build in 15 years within 2 or 3 years. Okay? And what I think we should not forget is that last year, May, we launched SONICUE 1.0. In November, we had this update to 1.1, which was major topic was to bring in the LNC series. Now we're looking forward to 1.2, which does a lot of things. It's the MXE5 supported, it's the system controller logic, and it's all the custom control panel stuff, so quite significant things. But I can tell you, this will not be the last one. So the plan is we will continue on SONICUE, and let's say today, there are still a few bits and pieces that we need IRIS-NET for. So if somebody says, hey, I want to create my own speaker setting, which we would consider, let the speaker engineers do that, but let's just assume I would point you towards IRIS-NET and say, sorry, you have to wait. Engineers still using the old tool. We need to take care of the other functionality. Yeah? For the MXE, I need to bring in my free config. I need a task engine. So there are other important things on our roadmap, on our to-do list. And yes, finally it will come, you know, but as we go. So it's a question of time when IRIS-NET will be completely kind of can retire.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And then I got one last question here before we'll be running out of time here. Is can I use third-party wall controllers with MXE5?
Depends. Now, if we talk about simple, straightforward mechanical, like RDL panels or whatsoever, that address the contact closures, yes, of course, it doesn't really matter what you use for that. If we talk about TCP/IP network stuff, the answer is probably not, because we did try, and believe me, and searched for a lot of things that are on the market, but when it comes to networked touch panels, they were almost always self-made. So there isn't really somebody who's having panels and saying, yeah, this is so flexible that it can speak OCA and it can speak this and it can speak that. So that's not there. However, talking about panels, one of the things we are fully aware that it's not that the whole world is just waiting for MXE in our panels, is that we will have for the MXE, as we have for our IPX amplifiers, plugin for Qsys. And we will also do a plugin for Crestron, because that's kind of, let's say, pretty dominant control systems on the market, yeah, and we will not change an entire project and do things that they can. I mean, let's admit it. Our expertise is the audio quality. That's our approach to it, okay? If you need top-notch sound, if you're looking forward running the entire system on 96K, that's where we come in place, you know. If you use something else to change the presets, okay, be it.
Sure.
We'll make it compatible.
Great. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Christian. I appreciate you walking us through that, and I think that wraps it up for Q&A. If you do have further questions, Christian and I would be happy to answer those, or any of our other colleagues here that are more than apt to answer a lot of the questions you might have. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Certainly, you can follow us on social media. We do a lot of updates that way, and certainly we're all living in a virtual world right now. So we do post a lot of updates up there, and we've been doing a lot more of these virtual events, so stay tuned there. And then if you do have other questions, any general questions, obviously you could talk to your relevant sales manager, myself, or of course you can email us at presales.support@us.bosch.com. It's right up there on the screen there in the bottom corner. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up. And then I want to really thank you, Christian, for staying up with us. I know it's not ideal out there, but, you know.
Pleasure.
But thanks a lot, Christian, and thank you all for joining us.